Why did ancient humans begin cooking? You are holding a raw piece of meat. It will take you an hour just to chew through it. Your jaw already aches. Your stomach stays empty. No matter how much you eat today, it will never be enough. 2 million years ago, raw food could not keep a brain like yours running. Something had to change before you could exist. Every other ape on Earth survives on raw food alone. You cannot. If you have ever wondered why a plate of raw vegetables leaves you hungry an hour later, or why your kitchen looks nothing like a chimpanzee's dinner table, the answer starts here. In a trade your body made long before anyone struck the first spark. It is a trade you are still paying for every single day, whether you notice it or not. Because to make that trade, something inside you had to break first. Here is the trade your ancestors made, and it happened inside their own bodies before it ever happened over a flame. Your gut is expensive tissue. It burns energy simply sitting there, digesting. Your brain is even more expensive. Pound for pound, it burns far more fuel than muscle or bone. Two greedy organs cannot both grow at the same time. One has to shrink so the other can expand. Biologists Leslie Aiello and Peter Wheeler gave this trade-off a name, the expensive tissue hypothesis, and the fossil record shows exactly which organ lost. Your gut got smaller, your rib cage narrowed, your teeth and jaw shrank too small to survive on raw plants and raw meat alone, and your brain, against every rule of biology, kept growing. That should have been impossible, unless something outside your body was doing part of the digesting for you. Here is a number worth sitting with. Your brain makes up about 2% of your total body weight. At rest, it burns close to 20% of all the energy you use just to stay alive. Feel that fatigue after a day spent only thinking, no physical work at all. That exhaustion is not in your head, it is your head. That something was fire. Cooking did not just change what you ate, it moved digestion outside your own stomach, and it used the extra energy to build the single most expensive organ you own. One anthropologist spent decades chasing this exact gap. In the 1990s, he was studying wild chimpanzees in western Uganda, and out of curiosity, he tasted the fruit they lived on. It was fibrous, bitter, and barely sweet, the kind of meal that could make your stomach turn. He realized no human could survive long on food like that. Our jaws are too weak, our teeth too small, our guts too short. Then one evening back home in Massachusetts, staring into his own fireplace, the pieces clicked together. His name is Richard Wrangham, and the idea he built from that moment is now called the cooking hypothesis. Cooked starch gelatinizes. Cooked protein unwinds and softens. What would take a raw-eating ape hours of grinding with its molars, fire had already halfway broken down before it ever touched your tongue. The timing lines up in an uncomfortable way. Homo erectus, the ancestor most closely tied to that earliest fire evidence, is also the ancestor whose brain size jumps dramatically in the fossil record, nearly doubling compared to the small-brained ancestors that came before. That kind of growth does not happen on a diet an ape's body could gather and chew raw in the wild. The evidence is not just theory sitting in a lab. Some researchers argue humans were already using fire as far back as 1.7 to 2 million years ago, though that claim is still contested and hotly debated. What almost nobody disputes is the evidence from Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, where archaeologists found ash and burned bone dating back roughly 1 million years. Some of the strongest proof that an early human ancestor, Homo erectus, was controlling fire. And in Israel, at a site called Gesher B'nai Yaakov, researchers found something even more specific. Roasted fish bones, cracked nuts, charred plant remains, all dated to around 780,000 years ago. One meal, preserved for hundreds of thousands of years. Take a moment with that. Your mother crouched by that exact fire, turning fish over hot stones, on a night you will never know anything else about. Your father may have been the one who kept that flame alive while she worked, feeding it small dry branches so it never dropped to embers. Neither of them wrote it down. The fire did that for them. And it was not just meat and fish. At that same site, people were pounding and grinding acorns and wild grains, softening tough underground roots that would otherwise pass straight through the body unused. Even Neanderthals, your closest extinct relatives, carried the proof in their own teeth. tiny grains of barley starch, trapped in fossilized dental plaque for tens of thousands of years, still showing the exact damage that cooking leaves behind. A researcher named Amanda Henry found them buried in teeth from Shanidar Cave in Iraq and Spy Cave in Belgium. Fire was not a shortcut for lazy eaters. It was a survival tool your entire family tree learned to depend on, again and again on different continents, without ever meeting each other. But here is the part almost nobody expects. This trade came with a price, and the price was permanent. A wild chimpanzee spends close to 6 hours a day just chewing raw food to get enough calories. You do not. Most of your meals today take you minutes, not hours, and that difference did not come from willpower. It came from the ancestors who let fire do the first stage of digestion for them. A chimpanzee can also walk back into the forest tomorrow and live entirely on raw fruit for the rest of its life. You cannot. A gorilla's gut is built like a fermentation vat, long enough to slowly break down huge amounts of raw fibrous plants. Yours is not. Cooking did not just help your ancestors. It made them the only ape on Earth that could no longer survive without technology just to eat dinner. There was a hidden bonus buried inside that dependence too. Heat does not just soften food. It kills the parasites and bacteria hiding inside raw meat, the exact kind of infection that could end a life in a world with no medicine, no antibiotics, and no way to treat a fever that would not break. Every meal cooked over that fire was also a meal safer to eat than the one your ancestors ate the year before. And this is not ancient history sitting quietly in the past. It is running your kitchen right now. Think about the last time you tried to eat clean by going all raw, salads, uncooked vegetables, nothing touched by heat. You were hungry again within the hour. That is not a lack of willpower. That is 2 million years of biology telling you the truth. Your body was never built to run on raw food alone. There is actual data behind this, not just a feeling. A long-term study out of Gießen, Germany, tracked people who ate a strict raw food diet for years, some of them highly motivated and health-conscious, not casual dieters. The results were not subtle. Around 1 in 4 of the women lost too much weight to stay healthy. About 30% of them stopped menstruating entirely. Their bodies did the exact math your ancestors' bodies did 2 million years ago, and the math has not changed. Not enough usable energy, so the body shuts down anything it considers optional. But here is the part that changes everything you are about to hear next. Fire did not just feed you. It rewired an entire section of your daily life that had nothing to do with food at all. A fire pushed back the dark, and the dark was where almost everything wanted to kill you. Predators avoid open flame. A fire meant your group could finally stop watching the tree line every second and start doing something else after sunset. Talking, teaching, passing down which plants were poison and which ones healed a wound. Shaping a stone tool by firelight instead of losing those hours to sleep out of pure fear. Some anthropologists argue this is where storytelling itself was born, in the hours a raw-eating ape never had. Picture the elder of your camp, the one who remembered every hunt and every hard winter, finally with enough light and enough safety to hold everyone's attention until the fire burned low. Guarding that fire was its own kind of work, and it changed who your ancestors became to each other. Wrangham's research points to something surprising here. A pile of cooked food left unattended was a target for theft, from rivals, from strangers passing through, sometimes from someone in your own camp. Someone had to stay close to the flame while it cooked. Someone had to bring the food home in the first place. That constant need for a trusted partner nearby, watching the fire and the food together, may be part of why humans pair up the way almost no other ape does. Cooking did not just feed bodies. It organized them, pulling people who once ate alone in the dark into one shared circle around one shared fire. This is likely where something else was born too. Not just partnership, the first version of a family sitting down to eat together. Researchers who study foraging societies living today, in places where people still gather a wide mix of hunted meat and gathered plants, see this same pattern repeat itself. Meals are rarely eaten alone. They are built around one fire, shared by everyone who helped make them happen. That instinct never left you either. You still feel it. The pull toward a lit room at night, the comfort of a candle or a glowing screen in the dark. The almost universal human habit of gathering people around warmth and light before anything important gets said. Even the shows you watch late at night, the group chats that come alive after dark, the last scroll through your phone before sleep, all of it is the same ancient pull toward the one light that once meant safety. Notice how much harder it feels to fall asleep in total darkness and silence compared to a softly lit room. Your brain did not invent that longing recently. It inherited it from a fire that kept your ancestors alive long enough to become you. And the skill kept growing long after that first fire. Tens of thousands of years later, across Europe, at sites like Bilancino in Italy and Kostenki in Russia, people were grinding cattail roots and wild grasses into something close to flour, then cooking it into the earliest known bread and porridge. Archaeologists have pulled burnt lumps of that ancient dough straight out of the ash, proof of someone kneeling by a fire, patting a paste of ground root into shape, and setting it near the heat to see what would happen. Your ancestors were not just eating around a fire anymore, they were inventing recipes. But taming a flame that already existed, one born from a lightning strike or a wildfire, was only half the problem your ancestors faced. Keeping that fire alive night after night was one skill. Building a brand new one from absolutely nothing, with no spark to borrow from the world around them, was a different challenge entirely. And archaeologists are still piecing together campsites hundreds of thousands of years old to figure out exactly when your ancestors finally solved it. You started this video chewing raw meat for an hour and still going hungry. Now you know why that never had to be your story. Next time your stomach growls for something warm instead of something cold from the fridge, remember that craving is not random. It is 2 million years old, and it is the exact reason your brain is large enough to even notice the craving in the first place. But controlling a fire someone else had already started was the easy half of the story. Next time, find out how your ancestors learned to create fire out of nothing at all. If this changed how you see your own dinner tonight, subscribe. Your evolutionary story is still being cooked.